Okay, settle down. Good evening. It is 5:30 PM on Tuesday, November 4th, 2025, and this regular meeting of the Sandpoint Planning and Zoning Commission is now called to order in council chambers at City Hall, 1123 West Lake Street, Sandpoint, Idaho. For the record, I am Commission Chairman Mose Dunkel presiding. Also present are Commissioners Grant Simmons, Scott Torpy, Reed Weber, Wayne Benner, and Ivan Remar, and William Mitchell.
Full house.
That's not on the list here. Yeah, we're all here. If everyone will please stand, we will cite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do commission members have any announcements or reports? No, hearing none, I will now proceed with the consent calendar. And at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Commissioner Benner, seconded by Commissioner Simmons. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes and consent calendar is approved. Okay, next we'll have matters from the public or general public comments. Sir, do you have any general public comments?
I do.
Okay, have you filled out a form? Can you fill one out after your comment? Okay, we'll give you a minute, or we'll give you 3 minutes. How about that?
My name is John Clute, here in Sandpoint. One of my concerns is as we build more and more housing, I notice an absence of concern about parking. There is a development proposed for the corner of Division and Church, which if I read the sign right, will have 11 units in it. I see no parking provision. A housing unit generally generates 2 cars. Where are you going to park them? You can't park them on Division. If you put them on Church in the winter, they can only be on one side of the street, which means you're going to have 22 cars strung out down Church Street. So, it looks like I'm almost out of time. All I'm saying is, please, when you're considering these, remember that a housing unit generates 2 cars on average. And I would ask you to consider in the proposed developments, where those cars going to be parked. You can't put them in the street, particularly in the winter. I guess that's my comment.
Appreciate it. Thank you. I see we have 4 participants on Zoom. Would any of them like to comment during the public period? Okay. We'll move on then. All right, we have no public hearing tonight, so we will move on with old business, which we have none, so we'll move on to new business. We have a workshop on lot coverage standards. Now I will yield the floor to Jason Welker, Community Planning and Development Director.
Good evening, Commissioners. Excited to see a full house tonight with the all 7 of you present. Thank you for being here. We did on October 20th hold a public hearing for some proposed amendments to our code governing lot coverage in Sandpoint. I won't review everything we went over, but the gist of it is we were proposing eliminating the max building footprint standard and going to a single impervious surface standard of 70% in residential single family and residential multifamily, with much smaller percentage in our rural residential zones where lots are much larger than they are in our urban zones. So I'm going to actually share my screen now because the first slide kind of shows the key takeaways from that meeting, and then we'll dive into what has evolved in this proposal since that October 20th meeting. Okay. This is, get all these little boxes out of the way. This is where we left off on October 20th. So, oh, why can't I show? There we go. Okay, so on the October 20th meeting, the commission requested some changes to the proposal based on concerns over the bulk and scale of development on larger single-family lots. So you remember, you recall, we looked at some sample lots. Let's see if it lets me navigate here. We looked at some examples of how development would be impacted in terms of building footprint on different lot sizes based on different percentages of impervious surface. This one on the left here shows the potential additional living space that could be accommodated under the proposed 70% impervious surface standard. Outlined in blue where, you know, this is a very hypothetical situation, but you could see a particular property owner that is maxed out under the current 35% max building footprint, which is the red area, could do an addition and possibly build an ADU under the proposed amendment. This was a multifamily example. You could see that moving to an impervious surface standard and away from the 40% max building footprint that we currently have in our RM zone would allow for slightly larger dwelling units, a living space in an attached multifamily situation like this. So that was kind of the gist of the idea of the proposal, was to allow property owners to make use of their private property in a way that they desire. If we currently allow 70% of these lots to be paved over or building footprint, the proposal here was to allow more of that 70% to be building footprint, should the property owner desire. So that's just a recap of where we left off. And in the slides that follow, we're going to look at how this proposal has evolved since then. Commissioner Weber had some very valid concerns about bulk, size, air, open space on 7, 8, 10,000 square foot lots where we were suddenly allowing building footprints to go up to 70%. So we've modified a proposal to accommodate some of those concerns. This was a quote at the town hall, the election town hall that was held a couple weeks ago. One of the questions from the audience was about affordability in Sandpoint, and there were 4 city council candidates responding to this question. And Councilman Aspuro, who's running for his 3rd term today, had this quote, and it really just stuck in my head. Really kind of an inspired quote. There are only 2 ways to get affordable housing: density or subsidy. And then he went into his response to the question. But I just wanted to give Joel a little plug there because it really stuck in my head. I mean, that's really what we're talking about here. When the proposed amendments tonight are really about allowing increased density of housing in Sandpoint, allowing the land that we have that is served by infrastructure that exists today to accommodate more human beings. Okay, that's really at the gist of what we're talking about tonight. So here is the proposal that we came up with. There's actually a much simpler version of this table that would appear in code, but I provided some columns here that won't ultimately end up in our code, just for the context for you to understand. So the table here shows, imagine the first column and the last column. That's what will likely end up in code if you choose to move forward tonight. But in the middle, there's some more information to help you kind of wrap your head around how this might impact real development in Sandpoint. And I want to qualify this. We did reach out to our GIS technical support team, which is a third-party firm, and we requested some back-end data from our GIS about how many lots of different sizes we have in Sandpoint. They got back to us with an estimate of how many tens of hours that would take to compile that data and to create new layers for GIS, and how many thousands of dollars it would cost. And we ultimately decided we couldn't get that done for tonight, so we used some in-house tools to help us find this information. And I cannot 100% verify its accuracy, but doing kind of a cursory overview, Bill and I were like, yeah, this seems pretty close to what's likely the case out there. You might think, well, that's a lot of lots smaller than 5,000 square feet. It's 36% of our single family lots are listed at smaller than 5,000 square feet. But keep in mind that parcels and lots are different things in Sandpoint. And there are many, many parcels that have homes on them that are made up of multiple lots in Sandpoint. Many of you might live on lots like, or parcels like this, that you have 2 or 3 lots underlying. So there are many historically platted lots in that 3,700 square foot range.
Mr. Chair. Real quick.
Yeah.
If you're wrong, do you get a sense that you could be really wrong, or magnitudinally does this feel like this is probably the right?
This feels.
Okay. And I'm thinking in terms of the splits between the smaller lots to bigger as percentage of total. Does it feel like this is probably, you don't think it's gonna be, like, there's no
Not
bogeys in the
genetically,
data that? okay.
Yeah. Yeah, this is pretty close. If you're interested to know how we got to this, I'd love to talk to you about it outside of the meeting, but the key points here are that we have relatively few very large lots in Sandpoint. And most of those lots larger than 12,500 square feet are not really what we call like single family lots. They're like unplatted parcels, right? These are like large lots that are, you can almost guarantee are going to come in for future subdivision. You're likely going to see lot splits. You're going to see smaller lots developed out of those much larger lots. Okay. So those are like, the average, look at the average lot size. I mean, the average one of those is well over 12,500 square feet.
When
So
those split, do they split generally into that 2,500 to 5,000 range?
well, the minimum lot size allowed in code is 5,000. So
Oh, okay.
most new subdivisions we've seen are getting as closer to that 5,000 square foot number.
Okay.
You might recall one recently, the cul-de-sac off of Ontario that had like 8,000 square foot
Yeah.
lots, but that's very unusual these days. Most developers want to put more lots into their subdivisions because they can sell more houses. All right, so at the column on the right, you can see the proposal, the updated proposal. We're talking about scaling the max impervious surface standard downward with increased lot sizes. And notice that we've kind of done away with it altogether below 5,000 square feet because, first of all, you can't create new lots below 5,000 square feet. The substandard lots of record that do exist, the max impervious surface standard is never going to be the limit on how big a building could be. It's going to be setbacks.
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay. Now, under our current, and also our current max impervious surface standard, or sorry, current building footprint standards don't apply to those traditional substandard lots of record anyway, because they have their own set of standards. So the setbacks are really going to determine what the maximum building footprint could be on the smallest lots in Sandpoint. But what we've done here is we've gone to a proposal that the larger you get, the less impervious surface we would allow. And ultimately, when you get to those 12,500 square foot lots, that 35% number is kind of intentional because when you get to the RR1 zone, where the minimum lot size is half an acre or 22,000, 21,000 square feet, the max impervious surface in there is 30%. So we're kind of scaling down towards that more rural character. So as our city lots get bigger, we're encouraging development that reflects more of a rural character. Does that make sense? Versus the McMansion model that I think you all were concerned about. So I dug a little deeper here and we said, well, I wanted to know, I thought it'd be useful for you to know, like what would be like the maximum building footprint you can expect to see on different lot sizes under this proposal. And it's not necessarily 70% of the lot size because realistically, you're going to see other impervious surfaces on these. Remember, this is not a new building footprint standard. It's an impervious surface standard. So what this shows is like kind of a real example of different lot sizes. So I selected like a kind of a representative lot size within each of these ranges and then assumed, well, realistically, like how much impervious surface other than buildings, so walkways, pathways, parking lot or parking areas, driveways, patios, what might a homeowner wish to include. You can see I assumed that scales down as the lot size increases. You're not going to see necessarily more driveway on a larger lot. And then so you subtract that out and say, well, how much actual building footprint could be achieved? And this is to show you that it kind of levels out. When you get beyond 7,500 square feet, you're not going to see buildings grow with the increased lot size because there's other factors that are taking up that impervious surface and the percentage allowed of impervious surface starts to decrease beyond 7,500 square feet. So using these kind of sample or representative lot sizes, you can see how we would kind of reach this plateau and the maximum building footprint you could expect to see on even the largest lots at Sandpoint would not really exceed that 4,600 or so square foot number. Yes.
Question. What if you had an impervious driveway, or, you know, like one of these permeable driveways that's like, you know, bricks with holes and grass, and then all of a sudden I expand my footprint by 1,000 feet for the construction?
Our code, our updated off-street parking standards say something about the city engineer making a determination about what's pervious or impervious. So theoretically, that could be possible. Building-
Theoretically, it really depends on, in the future, maybe there's a material that works better than things our engineers have looked at in the past, but it's certainly possible. You know, certainly possible. But really, the thrust of this is taking a step back is to just simplify the ordinance, provide some flexibility, given the fact that the code is chock full of other things that we're not talking about, like setbacks, for example. We're not talking about reducing the allowance that a house has for garage. That's still just 50% of the width of the house, and the provision that enables you to come closer to the street if you have a porch. So all those things make for a great street frontage. We're not talking about any of that stuff. It's really just because I don't believe you were here the last time. This was just taking two standards, one that was for building footprint, one for impervious, and saying, let's just have a single standard, and then try to arrive at something that provided a little bit more flexibility. Because mainly on the smaller lots, we were running into a lot of folks coming to the counter, running up against the fact they couldn't do a covered patio, couldn't do a room addition, can't do an ADU. So thus the agenda item in what you see before you.
Any other questions about this table? Or what has been presented so far? Okay. Tonight's not a public hearing. We will have to bring this back to a public hearing. And with the additional public hearing, should you give us direction on this next proposal, we would like to include an additional amendment to our RM development standards. So this decreasing percentage, the scale that you've seen tonight would apply to the RS. That was kind of the takeaway from our last meeting, was that the real concern here was with residential single family. Residential multifamily, the commission 2 weeks ago did not seem to have as much concern about the bulk, because it kind of fits with the objective of RM, which is to be able to provide more dense attached housing types. So could I see some nods that I'm on the right path here? So that relates to the next item I want to present to you now, which is a proposed amendment to our RM development standards, not related to lot coverage, but to density. Oh, I set it up and then I forgot I had a slide before I got into that. So this is just a recap of what we just kind of went over. So on small to mid-sized lots, the setbacks are really going to be the binding constraint on the impervious surface versus building footprint. Starting around 7,500 square feet, the impervious cap becomes the limiter. Okay, that's because in those larger lots, the percentage of the lot that's taken up by setbacks decreases. Right? Because that 5, 10, 15, and 20 feet become proportionally smaller as you get up to larger and larger lots. So that this is just to kind of recap that last table.
Can I ask a quick question?
Commissioner Weber?
On single family lots in the city, kind of going back to Joel's slide about, you know, increasing density will lead to more affordable housing. Does increasing the lot coverage for single family zoning allow more units, not just larger homes, but more units?
Didn't it allow more ADUs?
Or how would you bake that in?
No, this is single families.
Just the single family, yeah. If,
Well, and
and you
many
get
of
an
the cases
ADU
that
and a
would
single family
benefit.
house.
Yeah, many of the examples of property owners that would benefit from this are those who would currently like to build ADUs and on. So we've identified in our comp plan, it's, you know, ways to incentivize ADUs. We can incentivize them all day, but if you've reached your building footprint max and can't fit any more structure on your property, you're not building an ADU.
Right.
So that as far as dwelling units in RS, yes, in the form of ADUs.
Yeah. And are duplexes allowed in
Are duplexes
RS?
allowed in RS, Bill? Check that. Bill's gonna look up
Or
whether
this might have an impact on potentially more duplexes.
Correct.
And ADUs, so you'd have.
In fact, the next slide, I hope I'm setting it up now, would impact the ability to provide more duplexes in the RM zone.
Jason,
Yes.
I was wondering if I should bring this up, because I know you're trying to get to simple. But, and maybe it's obvious to everyone here, but the way you've lined up that table, if we go back a couple of slides with the 70, 60 and so forth. At the margins, when someone has a 5,100 square foot lot, excuse me, say a 7,600 square foot lot, there's, they're going to get less building size than someone with a 7,400 square foot lot. And, in the tax code, you kind of go to the margins, each marginal tax bracket sort of
Right.
builds on the next one so that you don't.
Exactly.
So, but if that's okay with everybody, because, our attorney might think that might be, unfair or something, where if a larger building is what people want and they have larger lots, they're actually going to get a smaller building in maybe a very few number of cases, but still that's what this table tells us.
So the solution that would be to have like a marginal impervious surface standard that for every square foot beyond 7,500 square feet, you can add an additional 10% or.
What, yeah,
I'd
just
have
so
to think about how to-
that, just so that as the lot gets bigger, the building can get bigger progressively, and it never gets smaller before it gets bigger.
I understand.
But that doesn't make it simple.
Well, that's kind of what we had proposed before, which is that it's 70% for everybody. That's,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That was not, we tried to resolve the bulk problem that would create. So going back to this table though, I think, the example lots we got here, well, that's the other thing. This might answer your question, Commissioner Torpy. The setbacks are going to be the limiting factor on the smaller lots.
Right.
So in this case, you're not going to get to 70% building footprint on a 50 by 120, a 6,000 square foot lot, because the setbacks consume more than 30% of your lot anyway. Whereas when you get to a larger lot, the setbacks are no longer the limiting factor. So not actually the case in your example that would be possible. Maybe at 7,400 square feet, but not at that kind of median range of that 5,000 to 7,500 square foot
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Remar.
in, as we
can
call
I
it.
ask a question?
Sure.
Real quick, along your lines, and maybe my math is odd, so I'm just gonna take the 5,000. So I take 5,000 by, where are we now? We're on a different thing, so
Go back to the.
go back one. So on a 5,000 square foot lot, you had 70, so that's 3,500 square feet. On a 7,500 lot, you have 60, that's 4,250.
Except you can't go to 3,500 square feet on a 5,000 square foot lot because the setbacks consume 50% of the lot on a 5,000 square foot lot. So you
Okay.
can't go more than 2,400 square feet or thereabouts. So the point, that's why we don't have an impervious surface standard for lots below 5,000 square feet. It's not 70%, it's the setbacks. The setbacks are never going to allow you to go to 70% of building footprint. The impervious surface standard applies to asphalt and concrete and your building, but the setbacks are what govern your maximum building size on a smaller lot.
Well,
We're not proposing changing setbacks today, right? If we really wanted to promote ultimate density, we'd say eliminate setbacks and let people build right up to the property lines in all zones. But that's not what we want in our residential zones. We want yards and lawns and air, light, and open space.
so my question, and I'll just cite the example here of 10,000 versus 9,999. I mean, a 10,000 square foot lot would have 50% of that minus something, it would be 5,000 square feet, obviously. And then 9,999 would be 6,000 square feet. So if that's okay with everybody, but that doesn't seem to be what we're trying to do here. I mean, that's just all I'm saying, that going backwards before you can go forwards in terms of size of the building based on the size of the lot.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead, Commissioner Simmons.
It's a good point, and because there's quite a bit of slop on either side of that percentage drop off. But I would also argue you've described a gains frontier
Mhm.
such that you could very easily plot it to say, my lot size is this big, where does it intersect with the curve? This is the size I'm allowed to build. That is described in sort of the decreasing, in statistical terms, monotonically decreasing trend of 70 down to 35.
Mhm.
And you can smooth that out however you want. I don't think it's that complicated.
Okay, good. I just wanted to bring that up, and if you want to do
It's a
something.
good point, though. Yeah.
I missed the question. I'm sorry. 'Cause I was
You were
looking up-
trying to determine whether
I-
duplex is allowed in RS.
Attached housing is allowed in RS. And there are certain standards.
Will this bring up some sort of, would somebody have a case, like Commissioner Torpy said, at 10,100 square feet compared to 9,900 square feet when you actually get a smaller allowable footprint for a bigger lot?
Keep in mind that
Or
not
so
footprint,
for a
this is
smaller-
impervious surface, right?
Okay.
So, I mean, in the real world, like a single family home, no one's gonna build a 5,000 square foot footprint on a single family home. The question is, how do we balance impervious surface and building footprint? So really what this is gonna come down to is like how much patio, you might have a little bit less patio space on a 10,001 square foot lot than you could on a 9,999 square foot lot. So there will be that range over which you'd be catching back up with what you could have had in the lower lot size.
Yeah, I think I know, I can see where this is going, but I'm having a hard time with the big deduction. Or at each step, there's a pretty clear difference. And then by the time you get to the middle of it, it's probably, okay again.
Just also a reminder, our current standard is 35% for all lot sizes. So every lot size benefits under this proposed amendment in terms compared to current standards. So, I mean, like if there's a takings analysis to be done, I wonder how our current code holds up when we tell 5,000 square foot lot owners that they're limited to 35% building footprint. Like you're telling me I can't use 65% of my lot for development?
So the answer to that's gonna be obvious, that there's gonna be more of a taking at 35%, than there is at 7%. I think that the answer to the question is what Commissioner Simmons was saying, maybe we go back to the drawing board and see if we can find better number, more practical numbers that aren't just 10% reductions every time. I mean, there's an obvious reason why those are up there, but if they upset the apple cart where you can go.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
At the margins, yeah.
We can find different numbers that have a more related purpose to the goal that we're trying to accomplish here, which would make it slightly more sensible. But to be perfectly honest, I'm not concerned about a legal challenge to a 7% or 60% lot line. Or impervious surface percentage, but we can go back to the drawing board to come up with those percentages that make it more practical. So.
Emulating the tax code is what you're proposing, basically, where I'm in the 10,000 to 12,499 foot lot coverage bracket. So my lot coverage standard only applies to that area of my property in excess of 10,000 square feet. So that's what we'd have to figure out, is how do we convert this to a true marginal impervious surface?
Or if you have
standard?
a simple curve, I mean,
Yeah, I
if somebody
think-
has to interpolate that, I mean, but
I think for it to be
Agree.
really uniform, it's
So the question-
every foot is a difference, essentially.
Definitely.
It's probably not much, but, yeah.
When you're pulling your.
Which is gonna
it
be,
matters.
you're not gonna be able, if somebody calls up and says, hey, how big can I build? You're gonna say, well, we gotta do some math every
Well, to
time.
make that linear, you just go back to a single impervious surface standard. You say everybody can cover 65 or everybody can cover 70% of the lot. I mean, that's the only way to do it, because then it scales linearly with the lot size.
Yeah, and I guess we asked for this.
Yeah, you asked for that.
I'm all
But
in.
that's not the only, I mean, you can achieve, I think you can achieve what you're trying to achieve here. And that is that the larger the lot, the more restrictive that impervious surface standard becomes. So therefore it shrinks the potential size of the building, which seemed to be the concern we had a couple weeks ago. You can do that by curve. you've got the makings of a curve now. It just has 3 or 4 points and it's a straight line between those things. But if you had something that was continuous, but then again, someone's going to have to, get out a ruler and everything else and try to figure out based on the exact size of their lot, how many, that may not be simple. That's all I'm saying.
Is rationally related to a legitimate government purpose, and I mean, whatever percentage is out there is gonna meet that standard. That's
So that would be okay? Okay.
We like a good challenge, so we'll
You want to adjust the.
see if we can.
I missed the question, but I think I got it through the discussion. Certainly, that's the whole point of having this, is to talk about it, poke a fork at it, and then we'll go back and mess around with some numbers. If this is generally heading in the direction that you were asking, then that's good feedback.
We're just asking for a slight sharpening of the pencil.
I think the curve maybe makes it more simple.
Yeah, I think so.
It's just one, it's
I
like
have
just
this
one,
much square footage I'm allowed to build.
yeah. Although it's not trigonometry, what is it?
Well, it's the area under the curve, it's calculus.
Okay,
But we can get there.
all right.
We know how to.
Yeah, we want
Few years.
staff to be able to do the answer. And we want
Yeah.
Mr. Jones to be able to call up and find our way through the zoning ordinance and see what the answer is. We don't want this to be,
So you want
kind
to,
of complicated.
you want to see a graph that shows lot size on the x-axis and buildable impervious area on the y-axis, but it's not linear.
Yeah,
it reaches in.
it's described by this curve,
Yeah,
which you might, once you actually plot it, you might want to actually truly sharpen your pencil around it. But at that point, that can get described in lots of different ways. You have 4 example points here, which could get shown as example points. But ultimately, it can get described also in here's ultimately the formula. Put in this, you get this.
yeah, it's
So
a
there's a lot of ways to solve it.
sine, cosine, and so on.
We're gonna keep this simple, folks. We're gonna come up with a simplified formula.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because that's not who's coming to the front counter asking what they can build.
Down with it. We can, I'll offer my services to the city, pro bono, to build this out in Excel in about 2 minutes. And have
That's not what I'm worried
a
about.
very descriptive, like, here's your band, most lots are this size, most area, like, you can label it ABC. There's lots of ways to skin the cat here.
Well, like Jason mentioned, we could also go back to just a single standard and it's basically modified by virtue of lot size. And it's already there. But that brings us back to,
Yeah, but on the margins though, you
Well,
still.
so Commissioner Torpy's saying, we don't mind bulkier structures on larger lots. We just don't want them to be proportionally as bulky as the bulky structures on smaller lots. So. True, that's what we're trying to get
And
at here.
I also argue this is a bit of a preservation of greenery
Mhm.
generally, right? Which we can foot to the comp plan pretty well.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty big concession, given the 35% right now, right? Like this is a bit of a bellwether change.
Mhm. And the original intent of this amendment was to allow greater flexibility of use of lots in the smallest of lots in Sandpoint. And then the conversation at the last meeting switched to, well, what about the biggest of lots in Sandpoint? We came in, like, the problem we were trying to address was a feasibility of small lot development, right? And then the problem you all identified was the
consequences.
the consequences for those, 20% of lots in Sandpoint that are larger than 10,000 square feet. 20% is single family lots, which is not a relatively small percentage of our total lots, by the way. So,
Well, I think we hear you, right? We've got a little bit of math to do.
yeah,
This is gonna be fun, Jason.
I have an uncle who's really good at
Oh,
math.
yeah, you're welcome. Excellent.
He was a professor at MIT.
He was.
Yeah.
And a lot of
Taught-
other places.
Taught Ted Kaczynski,
He
actually.
did.
Okay.
This is great.
It's late. It's been a long, it's only Tuesday too. We've got a late meeting tomorrow too.
But
So,
wait, there's more.
yeah, there is. So I hinted at another amendment that we're going to bring to you tonight. So here's what we're proposing in the RM zone. So the language here is just our actually same section of the code we're amending with impervious surface, but this is part A, impervious surfaces deals with part C of 9523, the development standards for RM, or 94.
So
I think
before
it's supposed
we
to be
get into looking at the
9423.
table, I'm just getting it up really quickly, and what
Yes.
what basically this is about is we've been through this exercise now talking about providing some relief for these standards, taking two standards and combining it into one, and then arriving at what the number should be. So we have a modicum of additional flexibility, and a little bit more room to build structures on your lot. In the RM zone, again, multifamily, under the standards we've been talking about, you'd be able to take that structure, that multifamily structure, and make it a little bit larger. Without addressing the number of units that are allowed on a given lot, and if you just left that the same, you'd have a fourplex that has each of its units now allowed to be a little bit larger. And the question we're asking tonight is, within that larger structure, do we care if there's 5 doorknobs, or do we really care that there's just 4? We're allowing that structure to be bigger. Can we add another doorknob to it? And that's what we get over and over and over again at the front counter. I just can't make it work with 4 units. I need 5. I can't make it work with 2. I need it to be 3. And so if we're going to allow, by virtue of the lot coverage standard, a slight increase in the amount of building you can put on the lot, the question then becomes, does that also translate into allowing another doorknob, another unit, right? So that's what this table addresses. It shifts it from the current requirement that you have, for example, for a duplex, you've got to have 6775. Now you'd be able to do that on a 5,000 square foot lot. It just adds an additional unit given the increase in building size that you get with the lot coverage change.
Well said.
Does that make sense?
So
At least
these,
in terms of what the proposal is?
What was, I can see that it looks like there's no change to the road frontage requirement. Is there any change in that column for? So for example, was there a reason why those numbers for road frontage were established based on the current unchanged number of units? In other words, for 3 units, apparently somebody thought 62.5 feet of road frontage was needed. Now that seems to be a pretty exact number. I don't know where that came from, but does 4 units have anything to do with the need to change 62.5 feet?
I have no idea where those road frontage standards came from or why they would be there to begin with.
Okay.
well, the
Okay.
increments of 25 feet make a lot of sense because the original substandard lots of record are 25 feet wide.
Right.
You
But
can-
how we came up with these, I do not know the answer to that. I don't know. I can see that they get larger given the number of units, which suggests a certain amount of frontage. But we look at the lot pattern that we see, we have. I just don't know where the standards came from
Okay.
or what they're trying to achieve, other than the obvious that you want more frontage with more units.
It looked like you started off with some number, like if there was a row for 1 unit, it might be 25. And then after that, it's 12.5 feet per unit until you get to the bottom.
Right.
So I don't know where, I don't know where 25 and then 12.5, but so my question, you've answered it. You don't know where it comes from and it's unimportant, right?
I don't think it's important, but let's talk about it. I mean, that's what the whole point of the workshop is. Let's see if we can find out if there's some importance here.
Because if we want to maintain that standard of, 12.5, then we probably need to adjust the road frontage, is all I'm saying.
Right. Why leave it unaffected?
Yeah.
You mean by increasing it?
No, just. in
Yes.
general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because what used to be currently a 3-unit development has a required road frontage of 62.5 feet. That's currently.
Uh-huh.
Under the proposal, that road frontage would be 50 feet.
Right.
So
That's how you, that's,
does that matter?
I don't think it matters,
Okay.
but let's talk about it.
I guess
We're trying to-
somewhat,
This is an attempt to add
yeah.
a smidge of density to the RM zone.
could be related. I mean, every rule has a reason. It came from somewhere,
Came from somewhere.
right? Like, wasn't born in a vacuum. Might have been, but probably not. So, and I guess maybe related is, and thank you to the member of the public who came up and spoke and gets to observe us having a workshop on lot coverage standards tonight. But what does parking look like in RM? Meaning, as units go up, reasonably cars are gonna go up. Is there some sort of, do we need to take a look at that?
And I'm glad you asked that question, Commissioner, because that's gonna be a limiting factor, right? There is a
Yeah.
requirement for parking.
What
depending
is
on
it?
the- And
Do you know it off the top of your head
it's,
in RM?
1.5 per 2 bedrooms, I think. Let's take a look. I don't have that committed to
Do we
memory.
round up? Okay.
We don't round down. I know that much.
All right, so that's still a bit of a long pole in the equation here, regardless of unit size. Or am I getting that right?
So there's, for apartments, duplexes, townhomes, or multifamily dwellings, under 1,200 square feet of living space per unit, it's one parking space per unit.
Oof.
If you've got a detached single-family home with more than 3 bedrooms, it's 2 spaces for each unit. And it's 1 space for a detached single-family home with 3 bedrooms or less.
Is that reasonable?
It kind of breaks
Does
on
that
that.
sound realistic?
Um,
I have no idea. I have
Parking,
no
like we've
research.
talked about, is
Such
a,
a, right, yeah.
I don't think you're gonna find a lot of planners these days are gonna tell you that we need to add to the standards that we have.
Yeah.
I think that, when you look at a garage that can accommodate a house, this 25-foot setback from the sidewalk for the, the depth of the garage, so you can park a car in the driveway there. These standards are gonna be more or less homogeneous across, cities, more or less, until you get to the downtown areas where we've talked about where you want to,
Density and-
we want to
yeah.
remove those. Yeah, well, we could talk about it more, but we do have parking standards that would still apply, and that's gonna be a limiting factor on any multifamily development. You're gonna have to provide the parking. You have to provide a space per unit, and that's gonna be a real limiting factor. So you might not get what you want, given the lot coverage, given the setbacks, given everything else. But what we're proposing is an opener to at least allow that that possibility to occur.
Mhm.
Instead of the 4, it's the 5. It's that one extra doorknob, knowing you've got to still comply with everything else, the parking, the setbacks, building height, for example. You're increasing the lot coverage. So can you allow that unit, an extra unit, to be in that same box, or is it, or not?
Could you eliminate the column road frontage? Is that an option?
The road frontage and lot size are kind of corollaries for the same thing. I mean, a lot with 130 feet of road frontage is not ever going to be a 7,000 square foot
Right.
lot, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they are kind of duplicative of each other.
It's common to see a frontage standard for a lot in a zoning ordinance. So when someone goes to create a new subdivision, right? So that's where these things really come into play. Someone's gonna go create something new. If they're substandard as it sits today, there's rules about the fact that it's substandard, right?
What I do wonder about this though, Bill and commissioners, is might there be situations where there's something like a flagpole lot that has a 25 or a 50-foot road frontage, but accesses a 10 or 11,000 square foot lot?
Yeah, there's lots
In
of
that
examples
case,
of that.
in the RM zone, like this table would mean, let's say you had a 50-foot of frontage, a drive aisle, and then there was a big lot that opened up behind some other lots. Sorry, you can't build more than 3 units or 2 units on our current table.
Yeah.
Right? So I could see situations where a large lot has relatively small frontage, and now we're imposing a standard that says you can't develop multifamily in a lot because you don't have a lot of frontage. But why do you need a lot of frontage if you have a lot of property? I see what you're getting at there.
I mean, there's also a case where you might access your lot through an easement and there you have no road frontage, right?
Lots can't be created without road frontage in the city.
In the city.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
but I think there's a difference here is when you're going to create a subdivision versus do we really care if it's an infill lot, what the road frontage is, if it's already there?
Is there any reason to keep the road frontage standard if lot size is?
More accurate.
I think it's a good thing for us to go back and peel the onion on a little bit. And then when we bring this forward in ordinance format, we'll have we'll adjust that a little bit in the staff report as well as in the discussion. We'll take a look. I think it's
I mean, what if
probably
you,
smart to keep this for new subdivisions, but
what if you owned a half acre that wasn't just a linear lot along a street, but it was a half acre tucked back behind a development you only had?
and there's a
one?
lot of those examples.
There are.
There's a lot of examples.
So you have 50 foot of frontage on, let's say, North Boyer, and then tucked back there is a half acre lot. Can you not do multifamily because you don't have 130 feet of road frontage?
Well, this would say that you can't.
You can't. So does the commission want to allow that possibility though? If so, then you're on the right track here.
Right, you may be able to come up with a scenario where maybe you don't get rid of it, but we evaluate, exemptions or possible scenarios where that could be relaxed in certain circumstances or whatever. I mean, we can look at this and see if what would make some sense.
But that standard certainly creates situations, hypothetical situations where a property owner in the RM zone would come and say, hey, I want to build a cool attached housing unit on my property. I've got this, 50-foot access from the division onto a half acre lot, and say, most you can build is 2 units. Sorry.
Yeah, or by virtue of it being 62.25 feet wide, you can't do it.
Would, if they have that amount of frontage though, wouldn't that become a road? Cause like the county does that if there's more than 2 units on a driveway, they force it to become a named road.
But again, for new subdivisions, a little bit different than
Yeah,
applying it to the existing pattern.
I guess what I would be looking for is more like a variance or something like
Mm-hmm.
that, that would allow that to happen, but would be able to keep this.
Yeah, I'll certainly put my thinking cap on what would a variance that specific tool wouldn't work in this case, but there may be something else that we can evaluate, some other exemptions or some wiggle room. And we'll, in the end, we might conclude and recommend that we just get rid of it, but we'll do a little bit more work on that.
Commissioner, I was just gonna say that maybe if it meets like one of the column items, then maybe it would go before planning and zoning or something, or
Yeah.
it's kind of, or a administrative review, kind of a case by case, if you meet one of these items, but not the second one.
So either lot size or road frontage. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how that would work with if you had 130-foot road frontage lot, but a 5,000 feet, like, what you can do with that, but I don't know. These are just different scenarios.
So we had this come up on a application on a project on Lincoln Street 2 or 3 years ago. I can't remember, but they already had a lot in the back. I think it was over by Great Northern Field. Can't remember what the details were, but they could not have had hardly any frontage. It was just a driveway. It was maybe 16 feet. But I think they applied to have a second dwelling in the back. I can't remember all the details, but it fit in with what we're talking about, and maybe it wasn't even a separate lot. It was just that driveway was an access only, something like that. Maybe they all shared the frontage.
I'd like to talk with our engineers too, just to see if they have a particular
Yeah.
vantage point on this that maybe we're not thinking of today. Emergency access, that type of stuff. I just want to peel the onion on that a little bit.
Any other thoughts on the proposed amendment though, of increasing density by 1 at each lot size?
Yeah, how are we feeling about that? I'm good with that.
Yep.
I think it's a pretty easy to get another door.
Okay.
You know, the lot, the lot frontage may have to do with driveways too, of not having driveways stacked on top of each other.
I think you're right. I think there's some of that baked in there.
But there could be common parking areas with a apartment building.
Again, it's a standard that seems pretty rigid.
Well, I mean,
And-
just as stated, yeah, I don't.
You got 6,000,
And like, imagine you had a,
So.
8,550 square foot lot. Right, an 8,500 square foot lot, and you wanted to put 4 units in there, I mean, this allows for condos too, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Condos, townhomes, duplexes, triplexes, condo just is whether it's individually platted. Yeah, they're
Okay.
all the same thing, basically. Attached housing.
Condo's an ownership type
yeah, I
of
understand.
otherwise same structure.
No, I understand that, but I'm talking about, when you're talking about Joel's comment about affordability, you know, rentals are not affordable housing necessarily for first-time home buyers.
I think what this does is it starts to enable some of these RM lots that you know, would otherwise sit vacant for a while until maybe market conditions change, start to see some more investment interest.
Mhm.
This is the question we get all the time. I get this question all the time. Oh, I'm 1 unit shy. It just can't work. And I've been hearing that for over a year now. I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, let's take a look at this. And it sort of fit hand in glove with the dialogue about the impervious, surface standards. So together, it's I think a modest move in the direction of allowing some density, but still recognizing that, these are garden neighborhoods and there's open space in backyards and there's landscaping we all appreciate and enjoy in open space. But how do we make an incremental sort of move in that direction of some density in the RM zone? So
Do you, could you go back a slide real quick? Do you have a sense of how often road frontage has come up as a pinch point ever?
it comes up.
It does?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's in the design of new subdivisions.
Yeah.
mainly.
Because as described here, these are really weird configurations. Right? 50 feet of road frontage for 6,700 feet of lot size, like pretty deep lot,
Yeah.
right?
That's pretty standard. That's literally exactly the size of my lot in South Sandpoint when I lived
Is
there.
it?
6,700 square feet on a 50-foot frontage.
Oh, okay.
I think it's,
Maybe I'm just not picturing it right.
yeah, I remember the comment was made earlier that the original plats had 25-foot wide lots. And back in the day, you just buy the number of lots you could afford and you put whatever kind of a structure you could put on there. And I think this 12.5 feet is a derivative of,
Do you have the RM map
The
handy?
12.5 feet is what? Finish that thought.
I think it's a derivative of that thinking. Well, we have these skinny lots, which just have a
Yeah.
little bit more, you can have another unit, a little bit more, you can have another unit, a little bit more, you can have another unit. Originally, it started at 25, right? 25 was the base. It wasn't platted originally with 12.5 foot lots. Wide lots, it was
Yeah.
originally platted at 25.
Not
And
to
then-
drag this thing out, but let's point out some lots and sort of get a sense of what we're talking about.
This is the RM zone. You can see these are all 25-foot lots.
it. Okay.
These are all 25-foot lots all over, like most of Central Sandpoint was platted with 25-foot
And you can
lots.
see the structures underneath that
Yeah.
sometimes
Now,
battle those property lines.
When we go to parcels, you'll see that most of those have been turn-off lots. Most of those have been combined into parcels, right? These, like each of these, that's 75 feet of frontage right there.
So let's
Just
talk,
the-
let's talk a minute about lots and parcels, just really quickly, just for the record, because this could get us sidetracked quickly. A lot is a legal lot of record. It's been created via a platting action. A parcel is a tax identification number assigned by the assessor based on ownership. You can draw a parcel around anything. You could take a circle in the middle of a lot and write a legal description and have a tax ID number for that. So a parcel is really associated with a tax ID number, could be one or more or less of any given number of lots. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay,
So
so,
the-
so
the-
planners, for zoning administration, it's all about platted lots. It's not about
So-
parcels.
So this property owner here at the corner of Chestnut and Washington is sitting on, and they probably don't even know it, 4 city lots. You can see it when I put the lot layer on.
Yeah.
So that property owner could right now, without doing any subdivision at all, sell off 4 city lots to different owners who can come in and build
Hmm.
a house and an ADU in the back. So there's the potential, you talk about the potential for infill development in Sandpoint. That parcel right there could house 8 dwelling units. It currently houses 1 dwelling unit. Because we have these substandard lots of record. Now, they can't create these lots today, but they're already created. They already exist. And I
Right.
guarantee you this property owner has no idea they own 4 lots. They bought this lot, who knows how long ago, or this parcel, and they probably didn't even know they were buying 4 developable lots in Sandpoint, Idaho.
Right.
Which they're sitting on a gold mine, to be honest with you. This is like the most untapped development opportunity in Sandpoint, is all these undeveloped historic lots of record.
It's true. There are some folks that are
And they're
keen to
all
this. like-
over. They're all over. All this whole part of town is just a wealth of developable property that nobody knows exists.
In the zoning,
Some people do.
Some people do.
some people do.
They're getting smart to it.
Yeah.
But you can see on every
It's also
block
the
that has,
opportunity zone too, so.
every block has so many lots that lie underneath these parcels. There's one with 6 lots on it right there.
Right.
That person owns 6 lots.
So zoning is administered against platted lots, against property, those platted lot lines. Your setbacks are based on, parcel lines. It's based on the lot lines.
So literally, when we talk about how do we promote housing affordability and promote the goal of our comprehensive
That's
plan,
that's
just look
the
at this.
density.
I mean, I did not choose, this is just on my screen because it's like everywhere in Sandpoint. We've got so much untapped infill.
zoom out a little
potential
bit.
here.
What does
You
this
see
look
every
like
one
as
of
we
those yellow
zoom out?
lines represents a housing opportunity for
Yep.
somebody.
Yeah, put on the lot line layer. Yeah, and just zoom out a little bit and just
take
sort
a-
of scroll around Sandpoint here a little bit. Got it.
There are way more lots than there are parcels in Sandpoint, probably by order of magnitude of 3 to 1.
And so that's one thing when I first got here, and the number one thing that jumped off the page to me, just looking at this, was that you have in a lot of cases, a development pattern that is inconsistent with the 5,000 square foot minimum lot size requirement that you have. You've got neighborhoods full of smaller homes that are, were originally built on smaller lots. And I was asking the question, and I think we'll bring it up after we get through some of the downtown stuff, is what would it mean to bring back a new zone district, a change to the minimum lot size standard? We used to plat the city with a minimum lot size that was a lot smaller than 5,000. And somewhere along the way, it crept up to 5,000, but the existing pattern is a lot different than that.
Got it.
So it raises the question, for affordability, because that's one of the objectives that we have overarching, right? Is, what are some tools that might make some sense? It might not make sense everywhere, but maybe in some areas it does. So down the road, I think we want to take a look at that and have a good, healthy conversation and get into the numbers on it.
What this map makes me realize is that our founding fathers and mothers of Sandpoint had workforce housing in mind when they platted this city.
Right.
This city was platted for loggers, miners, railroad workers,
Pack them in.
hunters, trappers. No, that was earlier. But over the century that followed, that vision has been kind of lost. And now we've established these new standards that make Sandpoint less affordable than it could be if we would just go back to the basics of founding plats of this city.
Or had zoning match the existing lot dimensions.
You can walk into the city hall right now and we've got these original plats framed on our wall, but new plats are not allowed to be platted anywhere near as efficiently as original
How bad?
plats.
What are the lot sizes on Walnut and Division?
Those are original lots. of-
Original.
25.
That's what, those are what,
25 frontage,
those are
right?
what you see here.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. And those are the only ones that are allowed to be developed like that. But fortunately, there's still hundreds and hundreds of them. Most people just don't know they exist.
Right.
So going back to the potential code change, how does can you get just like a
Yep.
corner lot from that map and maybe lay out the scenario if we are, if 5 was allowed here, now we're allowing 6 or whatever, just kind of to walk through a little bit in one example.
Maybe we can talk a little bit about lots when a new development application were to come in, like short plat might be needed to eliminate lot line for a multifamily.
Well, I mean, I'm not quite sure I understand. I mean, visualize a lot
Let's find an example. So here's
that
one.
instead of
Here's one.
4 knobs, it's got 5.
Right. I'm just curious on the real world lot, hypothetical real
Oh,
world lot.
I think there's a lot for sale on Boyer. Let's use the one that's for sale that's vacant. Right there,
Well, that's in mixed use residential.
the one that's right there by Church and
Yeah.
Boyer. I keep driving by that one, wondering when that one's gonna.
Here's one. So that's a 0.36 acres. What's that gonna be like? In square feet, that would be like 10,000.
10,000.
That would be more like 16,000.
16,000.
So that's a big lot. Under our new code.
Right.
Under the proposed code, that could be allowed to be built up to 11 units, I believe,
15,600, yeah.
15,600. So under the proposal, that would be
Take a look.
15,650. No, sorry. So 15,600, you'd be able to build 7 units under the proposed amendment. So if we go back to the map,
And how much frontage does that have?
here I can put our parcel dimensions on there.
Hope they don't all own Ram pickups. Oh, mama.
That's got 100 feet on, is that a street or is it an alley? That's Poplar.
That's Poplar. and then
100
all-
feet on Poplar and 141.
And how does that compare to the table for lot dimensions?
Okay, good question. I gotta share that part of the screen now.
Okay, so
So it has, yeah, that would fall.
that would have enough frontage currently under the way you see this table now, because it's got 100 feet of frontage.
Yeah,
But under the lot
40
size,
feet.
under the lot size, it would be 8 units as opposed to 7.
well, it's
Frontage.
15,600, so it's not quite large enough for 8 units.
But it could get 7.
Yes,
Yeah. So does that help? Commissioner, it's.
Yeah, that's helpful. And it's not really corollary to like the original lot width of 25 feet. That doesn't necessarily matter if somebody were to develop this example lot.
What's 140 divided by 25? What is that?
Looks like it's platted in the
35.
other direction.
5 point,
3,500 each.
yeah.
Yeah, these are 3,750 square foot lots. Because they're original lots of record, which are 3,750.
4 of them.
Oh, so they go that direction, yeah.
Yeah, so you could get 4 individual
plus-
units
plus
or 7.
ADUs, so that's, 4 units, 4 ADUs, 8
Yeah.
situations.
So by tearing down the original and going along the lot lines as opposed to the parcel, you would get 1 more unit.
Right, or if you got rid of the property lines altogether, you could do 8
A
on one,
sevenplex.
or 7-plex on
Hmm.
one, right?
Mhm.
Well, that was my question. I mean, just, this is kind of off subject, but if there are, I don't know how many lots there are for, and somebody wants to build 7 units on that, and, crossing all those lot lines, they'd have to first legally consolidate that into one.
And the reason why is
Lot.
because modern building codes, right? There is fire resistant construction and other rules in the building code related to when you build on a property line. So you have to get rid of those property lines if you're gonna put a structure on it. if you
Okay,
wanna have the freedom of
okay, that, just wanted to make
Right.
sure I understand.
Yep. No, it's a good question. That's, you got it. So I don't,
I mean, lot lines don't mean anything.
one unit increase, under one scenario, they could get more families in there without doing that, just by doing in development on each individual lot.
What is the parking requirement here? Meaning, there's not literally.
Parking, it's gonna be 1 per unit if it's that small, right?
1,200
One per
square feet.
limit.
Yeah.
So that's 11 cars fitting around there. No off-street parking requirement?
No, that would be.
No,
off-street
that's,
parking.
that is the.
Oh,
off-street.
that's required.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay, got
So
it.
those ADUs are likely gonna have to be above garages.
Got it, got it, got it, got it. Got it.
I thought the city in the nineties, although I was here, but you guys were at the time, but it's when a developer was right over here in Pine Street, built a couple of buildings on 25-foot lots, and the city came back at the time and said, no, from now on, it's gotta be 50-foot on frontage, because they didn't want to see buildings. So obviously that rule's been changed.
I'm not aware of that rule, but it must have been changed along the way. I know the entire zoning ordinance has been updated, I think probably twice since then. But that would have been a zoning requirement, yeah. There was a time when that wasn't the contemporary thinking, oh, let's get away from these narrow lots. But you know, what's old is new again, right? It's, things are, you know, these original plats are being studied and revered more and more. They're super flexible, right?
Ivan, I think the issue there was the 5-foot setbacks on the side property lines, so it made a 15-foot with an eve, I believe, so. I think there was
Doable,
Yeah,
but difficult.
I think there was some debate about the eve and the foundation footprint and what was actually the footprint. Yeah, I remember that
The
happening.
city used to be the eve, had to meet the setback and not the.
Oh, yeah. Now the eaves can project
Yeah,
18 inches of the setback.
yeah, there was a house there that got like, they stopped building it for quite a while after they started. I think they did something too where they did a overhang off of the foundation by a couple feet. Like a
Oh, got it.
cantilever.
Oh,
And then, so the foundation was, say, 16 feet, but the structure was 18. Yeah,
it sounds like an individual case where maybe the rules weren't meeting what the property owner had in mind to what they wanted to develop.
it's on Pine Street. It's, there was a big white pine tree in the front yard that they cut down, put a tree house in.
Treehouse on it.
So here's an example of recent development that has
Mhm.
availed itself of the substandard lots of record. You can see these are 3,750 square foot lots, but because these lots existed at the time that they were developed, they were allowed to be developed. You couldn't create new lots like this today. But each of these units is, you know, on 0.08 acre. Whether they're affordable, that's a relative term, but certainly they're gonna be more affordable than a house on a 0.16 acre lot. If you just think you're carving the pie into smaller pieces, more people get a piece. Right.
And that's a 35% impervious?
No, that standard doesn't apply to substandard lots. Currently, remember, we're only finding RS, not
Oh.
substandard lots right now. Substandard lots have their entire chapter in zoning. That's completely different. than
Completely different
parking.
standards, yeah.
These are great units.
Yeah, they're really cute too. Like,
Yeah.
they look neat from the road.
They do.
You have a question
I
on?
just used the word cute. They look really nice from the.
This
I'm
seems like
rather
a-
trouble. I do like this block. I think they-
24 inch.
Seems like a common typology on these narrow lots to keep them to not build them into the property lines. Do
We
you
got
know?
3-foot setbacks on these narrow lots too.
Yeah, but can't they build to the lot lines if it's all one lot, they can build to the lot line, like a full townhouse style where you're sharing
Townhouse
the
style,
wall?
yes, you can.
That doesn't seem to be happening
Problem
much
there
though.
becomes, the only way to split it for ownership is through condo.
Correct.
You can't, and people don't necessarily want condos. They want to buy a house.
They
not
want a
condo.
house, not a condo.
Townhouse can
Financing
be,
different, everything.
townhomes can be, what's it called, fee simple lots. They're not required to be
Correct.
condominiumized,
You're right, you can have single family attached housing,
right,
right,
as a townhouse.
as a townhouse.
And actually in the RM, you can go
Yeah.
down to 3,500 square
That's
feet
right.
on
I
a
just-
You can't do that in RS though.
Just seems like most people aren't building to the lot lines. I don't know why that is, if they just want to have the windows on the side walls, but they're not really fully maximizing the 25-foot.
They don't want to share walls. That's part of it.
They don't want to share a wall, but like you
Don't
look
want
at
to share a
like,
wall, I think that's a lot to do with it.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, Will, you're a realtor. I think there's
Yeah.
probably it's more marketable to sell a detached house than it is to sell an attached house.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You don't have to.
Even
have
if you
an
could get a
HOA
few more
with a-
feet
just a
in.
picture.
6 more feet, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But if it's
These are very
if it's a
good.
rental, the rental market, I don't think it matters. In fact, I think in the rental market, the townhouse is more attractive than an apartment or or even maybe a duplex.
I would agree.
So we generally on the right direction here to maybe tighten this up a little bit to bring forward for a hearing on it. With the two take homes of, figure out the curve in a simple way and take it's do a little deeper dive on that lot frontage, just see if we can understand that a little bit better.
The curve is back.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
so is snow storage being addressed at all in any of this stuff? On-site, I mean, you're saying that you're gonna have on-site parking, and you have the buildings. Is there any plan for where they're gonna push the snow on the property, or are they just gonna push it out into the street?
How's it been done historically here?
Well, I mean, that, through a site plan review, we address snow storage, and site plan reviews are required for anything more than 4 units, but anything smaller than 4 units, we don't even review them for that.
There's no.
So any
Standard.
multifamily with 4 units or more, snow storage would have to be addressed through the site plan.
There's no standard about how much. There just there simply isn't a volume or an area calculation in the zoning ordinance that says, given this development, you've got to have X amount of snow storage. It doesn't happen for super one. It doesn't happen for the apartment complex. It doesn't happen for a cottage. It just says you should think about snow storage. And that's only for projects that are triggered into that land use permit. If you're just getting a building permit for a single family home, there's
No, not in a single family, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, snow storage used to be, back in the 90s and early 2000s.
Was a requirement, was that?
Well, yeah, it was addressed at P and Z,
Yeah.
you had to have a certain snow storage area, and I think that was determined by engineers or somebody, with the.
For all projects or for those that came?
No, it was multi-unit, yeah.
Yeah.
Multifamily stuff?
Well, I mean, that was a big.
Or a subdivision even.
Done as storage, cottage developments, for example.
Well, the one up on Samuelson, the CUP that was brought to the commission, snow storage is there,
Oh,
but
yeah.
again, there wasn't a number.
No,
that
I'm
they had
thinking of
to hit.
even like the cottage developments we reviewed recently, they,
Yeah,
snow storage was a
they-
big topic of
That
discussion.
was, and they had to provide some, but there was no measurement in the code. We
Yeah.
weren't judging it against an adopted standard. It was, okay, the site plan,
The snow.
the site plan says there's snow in there. How are they gonna get it there? Okay.
Yeah.
Carry it. It can get difficult. On the larger sites, like the multifamily stuff, like the Samuelson CUP that, I don't know, last August, maybe Darren Fluke brought that through as one of his last projects. I remember looking at that site plan and it had areas labeled for snow storage, but there was no calculations. There was no area. It was no comparison to a standard. It was just, here's where snow's gonna go. They needed it to work to make the project work. But when you get down to these smaller scale onesie, twosie, 3, 4 type unit things, there's no standard in the code for that, like
Okay.
nothing. We get asked that a lot, and I have yet to see a standard.
Okay, moving on. Do you have anything else?
That was it. I mean, I had some final slides kind of, but I think we've had the discussion. I think everybody understands the idea here. What was the original impetus for this? It was the realization that many of the smaller lots in Sandpoint, down to those 5,000 square foot lots, that 35% building footprint maximum literally meant like housing types that people actually want to build and buy are impossible to build. So we were looking for an accommodation that would allow for a building type, especially that which, aging population, people want to buy a house and live in it until they're old. They don't want to buy a 2-story house. We're forcing houses to go up to provide more than 1,000 square feet of living space. So this code amendment was originally inspired by that small lot. We've now transitioned to, okay, what are the implications for the larger lots? A lot of good stuff to think about. I'm going to go refresh my calculus from 11th grade and see if I can come up with a good curve, and I'll contact Grant for help with that. But
ChatGPT.
Feel free.
yeah,
Or,
like I said, my
Yeah.
uncle's pretty good at math too.
And then I'll help you
Okay.
write it in such a manner that it's really easy to administer at the front cameras. I don't want this to be,
Yeah.
complicated.
So, just wrapping it up, I think.
Yeah.
Going back to the idea that we're looking for ways to implement our comprehensive plan, right? The comprehensive plan. Actually, can I just share that slide? I did have a comp plan slide in my presentation. You gotta share that. Bill's taught me always reference the comp plan
Always.
in your
Always.
presentations. So it is a good comp plan. This is the summary. This is what the table would look like in our code if we had went with what we discussed today. I think we can maybe look at this over the next couple of weeks before I bring it back to you and see if we can improve that a little bit. And looking at the comp plan, so just a couple of the objectives from a comp plan that we believe these amendments support. A variety of lot sizes and housing types while maintaining neighborhood scale, identify and resolve barriers to impede the development of workforce housing, and encourage compact, walkable, and infill development. Okay. Kind of the last slide here. Yeah, that's it. That's our presentation.
Thank you.
Yep.
Are there any general announcements from staff that you'd like to bring to our attention?
Yeah, just real quickly, making a lot of progress at the staff level on what a historic preservation code would look like. A lot of drafting has gone on. There's a lot of adding and then subtracting and then rethinking. Doing a lot of research across the state and how this is done in other jurisdictions. I've mentioned this before. I think the best way to introduce this into the code, should we get there, is to make sure that it's attached to the appropriate scaffolding in the code. So there's gonna be some tweaks to some sections of the code that don't speak directly to historic preservation. But for example, if we're gonna have a new permit in an area of town, well, let's take this opportunity now to make sure all the permits that are in the zoning ordinance are in one place. And even better, let's have them in a table. You know, so I'm taking liberties with trying to provide some streamlining and just modernization of the code overall as I'm working through the designing what would be the new historic preservation code. Plan on going to the Historic Preservation Commission to give them a sort of a look under the cover of this thing in a couple weeks. I think it's next week. And then that was just put on my calendar today. So I guess I'm doing that in 2 weeks. So what I was really hoping is to have a meeting with the council, this commission, as well as the Historic Commission, all in one shot. We might not be able to pull that off, but there's a fair amount of understanding this national story of what historic preservation is and how it's regulated and sort of formed and envisioned at the federal level and at the state level, what the tools are, what we're able to do at the local level, and how you actually do that. I think it's important to understand that regulatory structure a little bit before we start going and changing all our codes and adding things in. It just, at least in my mind, it helps us understand how this attaches to this larger narrative and this larger national project of historic preservation. So I think I'll come to you with some tables and examples of where the code is changing and then show you what this thing is starting to look like. And then that's ultimately going to lead into the tough discussions about exactly how we regulate it. You know, there's degrees of regulation, everything from just make sure we have noticing provisions on demolition to, hey, everything has got to be exactly the way it was back in time. And there's, national standards and other local standards we adopt in place. So we're gonna have discussions about where we fit on that continuum. Those can be some of the big policy discussions come out of this. And when I show you this framework, I'm gonna point to it and say, here's a policy question we're gonna address when we get there. Here's another one. And by the way, here's another one. So I'm gonna give you a sort of a snapshot of the whole, and then we're gonna go back and start refining each piece to see if it makes sense. So a lot of work's been done on that. So we're making progress.
We're going to have a busy meeting 2 weeks from tonight. You've got 3 agenda items: a conditional use permit, a subdivision, and a code amendment. Pretty much everything you guys do, you're going to do it on one night.
Yep.
The code amendment is around short-term rental regulations. That is already up on our current projects page if you want to get a preview of it. That one is a public hearing. Yeah, it is actually. We have 3 public hearings 2 weeks from tonight. So please try to be here if you are available. It'd be great to have all of you here. Busy night. The CUP is probably the least busy of those. It's pretty simple CUP.
Straightforward.
Yeah.
What was the third?
Code amendment to our short-term rental regulations. Subdivision.
Okay, thank you.
And Eric Brubaker will be delivering 2 of those.
Yep.
Any other questions? Commissioners?
There's a big meeting tomorrow night. Can you give us any insight or update on any of that?
Yeah, we're amending our open container law.
That's not what we're talking about.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Modifying the
we'd
fee
like to hear
schedule
about
to
that.
make it a little bit cheaper to rent fields. No, the big one is obviously related to the CUP for the Averils Hotel. You've heard, of course, that they're asking for a lease for the RV park property. So they've got a presentation to give to council tomorrow night. There's a-
How does the railroads like control over that land relate to a lease versus a sale?
That's all in the staff report that I prepared for tomorrow night.
Well, I looked at
Love
it
that
today and well, besides that 300-page contract for the bridge is still a big thing.
That covenant travels with the land, so whether it's being
Leased
leased
or not,
or
doesn't matter.
whether it's sold, it applies.
So they could block it either way.
Block, what do you mean?
Like they could like not allow you to lease the land.
Oh, it's not the railroad allowing us, it's just that the land there's a
Encumbered.
restriction placed on that land. I
Yeah,
don't think
okay.
any different railroads can come in, it's just that if the railroad chose, if there was commercial activity or non-park related use of that land, the railroad could come in and exercise the right of that covenant, which is to take ownership of that land back.
Right.
So it's kind of a protective shield against,
It's a land use restriction that was placed
Yeah.
via private covenant.
Yeah, right.
Travels with land and that, all owners would have to adhere to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the reversion provisions would kick in.
Mhm. Yeah, would be a.
They're hard to do.
You never know what walks in the door, right? That's what, and so the staff reports, ginned up for city council to evaluate that request that came in to the front door.
Mm.
Hope you have enough coffee before then.
Is-
Yeah.
Is this, I mean, you can't gamble in Idaho, but I think there are ways to gamble. So do you have odds? Way?
Which way council's gonna go on it?
Yeah.
Coin toss.
Conversation for off the record.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I mean, again, like you just said, you can ask for anything, right?
Sure.
Yeah, that's it. That's
Mhm.
how I see it.
Okay, that helps. All right, any commissioners have anything to add or ask? Okay, hearing nothing, we will adjourn the meeting at 6:52.
Even-
Thanks, boss.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.